Hayawi mwishowe huwa tuliwaambia kutanyesha, kumenyesha, deadly. Good morning, karibu sana. Sisi sasa tutaitwa nini? Weather forecast.
Weather forecasters. I'm a prophet.
This is a morning cafe, karibu sana.
My name is Anne Odida. Just beautiful weather.
Yes. Today kwanza we start with the weather, because just look at this map of Kenya and you can see the two systems. Even Turkana, there's a huge system working out there. Hata wamepata mvua in Turkana, Central Highlands, Nairobi, Narok, southern part of the country, upande huu. Kule chini Mombasa hawana mvua sana, and the eastern, northeastern part of the country, no much rainfall. But western part from Nairobi, Central Highlands, huku Eldoret, Kisumu na Turkana, a lot of rainfall. So let's start with Turkana this morning. And you can actually see it's 25 degrees Celsius, but they say rain likely around 8. It's going to rain from chances of rainfall in Turkana today, 3.8 millimeters of rainfall. From this morning, they do expect a lot of rainfall, starting at, actually it's raining currently.
Yes.
It will continue until noon, then give way to cloud cover. But that's the only day they will receive rainfall in Turkana this week. What about Mombasa?
It's 27 degrees in Mombasa, feels like 31, partly cloudy. Cloud cover throughout the day, very little sunshine, but highs of 32 degrees. Precipitation is likely to rain 7.1 millimeters.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's Mombasa. In Kisumu, which was very hot last week.
Yes.
It is raining actually right now. It's 21 degrees Celsius. Light rain showers. It promises to rain for the better part of the day into the late afternoon. This rain will persist up until Friday in Kisumu. Kisii. Now what we are Kisii? What we are Kisii?
Hoi, perfect. It's 17 degrees in Kisii. It's raining currently. Light rain showers, they say there. Currently 80% of rain. It will rain throughout the day at 4 p.m.
Yes. 10.4 millimeters of rainfall just to cool down the temperatures that we saw yesterday. And it's going to rain for the rest of the week into next week. Kisii, mvua imeanza, the season of rainfall. And finally, in Nairobi.
It's 17 degrees as well. Light rain likely around 7 a.m., but it's raining currently anyway. So it will rain for the better part of the day. Very, very little. Wanasema kutawaka kidogo.
Kidogo sana around 11.
Yes.
Yeah, 19.6 millimeters. This is the highest rainfall across the country in Nairobi. So watu wa Nairobi, ngojea mvua. It's going to rain up until Wednesday. Then the rest of the week will be dry. Then again next week, mvua tena irudi. So that's the weather forecast for today.
Yeah.
Let's come back and take a look at the dailies now. Quick look at the Kenyan dailies, because hata hizo inaleta mshike changamoto hapa na pale. Pulpit, arrogance. And the Standard continue with super headlines. Me, let me not use that word. I just enjoy two-word headlines. Yes. So kuandika sentence mrefu. Pulpit, arrogance.
Taifa leo, sadaka ya Ruto yachafua hewa.
Wangesema tu yachafua hewa. Sadaka chafu. How e-citizen owners defied State House. That's the Daily Nation.
The Star Cusco scam, how Kenyans lost 12.5 billion Kenyan shillings, Sacco cash.
Wow. People Daily, TSC 30 billion shillings for intern teachers. Business
Daily, State offers bank 6.4 billion shillings for KQ shares drop.
Right. So starting at 6:30 this morning, of course, State of the Nation will be discussing the big headlines from that signing of the MOU. Now to what's happening with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. These are the people who will be in studio today. Kipruto Rapkirwa makes a comeback to the panel Morning Cafe. He's a former agriculture minister. He worked in the Kibaki 1 administration. Dr. Mombingaru, who has served as MP for East Africa Legislative Assembly and also as Mayor of Thika Town, will be in studio alongside Dr. Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central. That's coming up your way at 6:30 this morning. Don't miss. Let's now go regional and take a look at what people are talking about in East Africa.
We start off with the East African magazine. Congo war disrupts trade, and M23's successful onslaught on key cities of Bukavu and Goma comes at the expense of the movement of goods to and from the DRC, creating uncertainties beyond the usual humanitarian crisis. And the border crossing there between Rwanda and DRC in Goma was closed Friday after a Congolese soldier was killed by a Rwandan police officer.
Remember last week we were talking about how many 6 border points between DRC and Uganda are already closed, meaning that also affects transport from Kenya, from Mombasa all the way through Uganda to DRC, meaning that's affected. Now, if at all they also affect the Rwanda-DRC border points, watu wengi watalala njaa. Aha, wale marafiki wawili.
Friends, rivals, friends again. President William Ruto, of course, shakes hands with Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga on stage during the Memorandum of Understanding between ODM and UDA at the KICC Nairobi on Friday. Definitely
a big talking point, not just in Kenya, but also the region, from AU now to local politics.
Absolutely. ESCs plays the old tune on money, and they say programs at the Secretariat of the East African Community are grinding to a halt due to a lack of funds. Reason? Members just can't pay, won't pay on time. Interesting. And Sudan war gets murky for Nairobi after appearing to encourage a parallel government. Kenya makes an about turn to push for dialogue.
Which they should have done in the first place. That's East African, a collection of what people are talking in the region, talking about rather. But let's go specifically to Uganda. And this morning in Uganda, take a look at the Daily Monitor. State asks to hack Besigye's phones. Only in Uganda. The state has asked the Chief Magistrate's Court in Nakawa, Kampala, to allow it to access phones belonging to opposition leader Dr. Kizza Besigye and his co-accused in order to study their contents and build up the treason case. Surely? Well, Uganda. The other big story there, the growing threat of childhood obesity. They say there's a 2024 World Health Organization report on obesity and overweight shows that in Africa, the number of overweight children under 5 years has increased by nearly 23% since 2000, with more than 390 million children and adolescents aged between 5 and 19 years being overweight by 2022. Wanapatia mtoto kila anataka kula ndo asilie, kumbe ni shida. That's the Daily Monitor.
New Vision, kidnap gangs return. Now none arrested with gun and military uniforms. That story is on page 3. Government rolls out malaria vaccination. How to manage classroom flu cycle. I don't know kama kunanyesha pia Uganda, manake they were kulikuwa na jua huko mingi sana last week. And Deputy IGG launches book detailing her life. Kule chini, government deliberate on empowering women, and we see a photo there of Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni matters women empowerment. That's the New Vision.
All right, that's International Women's Day celebrations. Yes. Let's cross over to Tanzania and we start off with the Citizen. New date set for oil gas blocks auction. The auction, which was initially scheduled to take place in 2023 before it was postponed to this month, has now been rescheduled to May due to outstanding legal and procedural matters. 57.54 trillion, that's the estimated cubic feet of natural gas reserves that were discovered in Tanzania. The global energy market is shifting, but hydrocarbons still play a crucial role. This is matters natural gas. Once wameweza exploit it properly, Tanzania will be way ahead of most other African countries. Samia launches Tanzanian shillings 406 billion water project delayed by 2 decades. And Airbnb boom prompts call for fair competition. Experts have appealed for a fair business environment to ensure balanced competition with traditional accommodation providers. Yes, and this word that we now hear a lot in Kenya, PPPs, hold the key after US foreign aid freeze. That's the Citizen in Tanzania.
Gazeti la Mwananchi, nani ni tatizo katika malezi, mjadala wanaume wanawake wa kulea. Anasema kwamba kila upande watupiwa lawama, matatizo ya kifedha, mila potofu, manyanyaso ya ndoa na tamaa za kihusiano vyatajwa, madhara kwa watoto yaelezwa, viongozi wa dini watia neno katika ukurasa wa 3 wa gazeti hili la Mwananchi. Kule Tanzania tu, nani ni tatizo katika malezi, ama pale same na Uganda, nani anapatia watoto junk, watoto wako na obesity pale.
A lot of parenting discussions today on the dailies.
Yes. Rais Samia azindua mradi wa maji uliokwama miaka 20. Rais Samia Suluhu Hassan ako katika picha hii hapa akikagua moja ya maeneo ya kuchuja maji kwenye mradi wa Mwanga Korogwe alipozindua hapo jana. Aliyemwagiwa tindikali Moshi aiandikia tume ya utawala bora. Aliyemwagia tindikali Moshi,
alimwagiwa acid kule Moshi.
Acid. Right. ACT Wazalendo yatishia kumshtaki DC Sadifa. Habari hiyo katika ukurasa wa 20. On the top strip of gazeti la Mwananchi, paroko Bagamoyo aeleza walivyosubiri jimbo miaka 7. Amesema pale nilitokwa machozi ya furaha, sikutarajia jambo hili maana tulisubiri kwa muda mrefu, lakini wakati wa Mungu ni wakati sahihi.
Interesting that in Uganda, in Tanzania, it's only months away from the general election, and you cannot see any politics on the front page.
Yeah.
Both papers, no politics. Yet, this is the election year. If it was Kenya, wacha tu.
Tushaanza.
All right.
That's the Mwananchi.
All right. So let's take a look at the traffic situation in Nairobi, especially given that the rains are here with us, and you can actually see the problem that comes with that. Just look at this road. This is Kangundo Road. Yeah, all the way from Kayole past Komarok as you head towards Outer Ring Road. This, I think, will be the biggest problem this morning. Anyone using Kangundo Road today, once you get to Kayole, that corner there, all the way to the Outer Ring Road, iko shida hapo. Other places that are going to be troublesome, you can see even the Eastern Bypass around JKIA, KQ offices there, it's getting busy. Look at this. This is a turning onto, from Eastern Bypass onto Outer Ring Road. It's already red, yeah? And it's extending all the way towards Cabanas. So yes, on the eastern part of this town, kuna shida. Jogoo Road, it's building up, and this is a different area. That area around that roundabout for St. Stephen's Jogoo Road Church. It's a long stretch of red, meaning that there's trouble there. So Jogoo Road, do expect some delay. Once you get to town, of course, Haile Selassie Avenue, kama kawaida, it's getting red there. Areas around bus, what do you call it? Railway, bus station. Thika Road, naona ile shida iko. And we've gone as far back as Githurai. The section between Githurai and Kasarani, there are stretches of red there, meaning there's very slow traffic there. Once you get past Kasarani, as you get closer to Garden City Mall, another long stretch of red, meaning many vehicles and motorists on Thika Road are taking more time to get to Pangani. So kuna shida Thika Road. Once you get to Pangani interchange, it's building up slowly, but people from Kiambu Road can actually get to town much faster this morning. Kama uko Kiambu Road, this is the time to leave because watu wa Thika Road are being held back kule. The other side of town, si mbaya sana. Ngong Road looking good, hawajasikia mvua. Langata Road, pale tu Galera Mall kidogo, lakini after that it's looking good. The other one is Wayakiwe into town, not much of a problem. So most people, and I've seen even some schools are giving notifications that my buses itachelewa. Yeah, most school buses picking learners might get late this morning. The biggest problem, Kangundo Road. That's the weather.
All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
When you're truly passionate about your work, it no longer feels like a chore. It transforms into something that motivates and pushes you towards excellence and persistence.
Let's now come back and take a look at the local dailies. All right. Pulpit arrogance is a big story there on the front page of the Standard. Why arrogance? And they say, in God's name, as millions of Kenyans battle the high cost of living, President Ruto has splashed 140 million shillings on churches in just 1 week. Protests erupted in Nairobi yesterday and were met with a brutal police crackdown as furious Kenyans questioned whether these donations reflected generosity or a blatant display of political excesses amid economic turmoil. Incidentally, kwa ile MOU alisign the 10 points. One of them was condemning the show of opulence in government and senior government officers. So amesign hiyo, it's there, it's actually listed. I think number 5 or 6. And then the president, so will he even respect that MOU? What the Standard has done on the front page, they're saying, they're showing you what 140 million shillings can do. One, it can pay capitation for 6,296 students for a year and a free day secondary education. It can build 7 kilometers of tarmac at 20 million per year, per kilometer. It can pay a year's salary for 194 nurses, earning 60,000 shillings each. It can build 40 classrooms at 3.5 million shillings each. Those are super classrooms, 3.5 million. It can buy over 50 dialysis machines at a cost of between 1.2 and 3 million.
Oh, wow.
Fund 2,800 students with bursaries at 50,000 shillings per year. It can construct 100 low-cost housing. It can buy over 20 police vehicles. And it can provide water access to 40 million people by drilling Lotikipi Basin Aquifer at 25 million shillings. Yes, that's what 140 million can do, lakini imepewa kanisa tu papa. Hata mkipiga kelele, mnapigwa tear gas, pesa ingine inapeanwa. Pulpit arrogance, that's a choice of headline by the Standard. I think this headlines on the Standard are perhaps the strongest. That's just my opinion. Yeah. Other stories there, Raila heckled in Kisii of a political deal with Ruto. I've seen people trying to deny this on social media. Yes, it happened. Mysterious return of Wajir MCA is another story given prominence on the front page. US-China rivalry goes to the seas and Lionesses back on the hunting trail. Matter Sports on the back page is about World Rugby Sevens Challenge. Kenya Lionesses back on the hunting trail. And that's a Standard.
Taifa Leo, sadaka ya Ruto yachafua hewa. Rais asisitiza ataendelea kutoa michango kanisani, akiwaita wanaopinga harambee kuwa maajenti wa shetani. Yesterday tuliona pale Jesus Winner wakitembelewa hapo. And there's a photo here, maafisa wa polisi wakifunga barabara kuu ya Thika, eneo la Roysambu, ambapo vijana walijaribu kuvamia kanisa la Bishop Edward Mwala la Jesus Winner wakati wa maandamano hapo jana kulalamikia kanisa hilo kupokea mchango wa rais wa shilingi milioni 20 na ahadi nyingine ya shilingi milioni. You know, the thing is, hata wanataka hiyo pesa, hiyo 20 million. Nani atapewa? Wakisema give us back that 20 million Kenya shillings.
Maajenti wa shetani.
Yes, makafiri. Vidokezo zaidi, Mbadi yasema serikali sasa inalemewa kufadhili elimu. Waziri yasema elimu ya vyuo inahitaji shilingi bilioni 107, ilhali serikali inaweza kumudu shilingi bilioni 79 pekee. Habari zinginezo, Joho auza dili ya Ruto na Raila eneo la Pwani, ataka wakazi wa ukanda wa Pwani kuunga ndoa mpya ya kisiasa baina ya UDA na ODM. Habari hiyo katika ukurasa wa 4. Na seneta hapa kutatua shida ya ardhi Pwani, aahidi kutumia wadhifa wake kama mwenyekiti wa kamati ya ardhi kukabili unyakuzi. Kule juu, Uhuru apata ushindi kesi ya Jubilee, mahakama ya rufaa yapiga breki mrengo wa Kaninikega. Hii ilisumbua sana. Finally. Liverpool waanza kunusa haruru ya taji, wanahitajika kushinda mechi 6 pekee kutawazwa mabingwa EPL.
Hiyo imeenda hata sisi tunashughulika na Taifa Leo. On the Daily Nation, how e-citizen owners defied State House. Shortly after being sworn in, President William Ruto summoned owners of Webmasters Kenya Limited to a meeting at State House, where one message was made perfectly clear. The company hands over the e-citizen platform to government. You know, it's curious that the system is in private hands. Yeah. E-citizen too.
Na wanakataa.
Yeah, the company was to hand over the e-Citizen platform to government and abandons any monetary claims as the firm had paid itself enough for nearly 8 years. In January 2023, Gold Rock and Webmasters dropped their suit, but more than 2 years later, Webmasters and its sister firms are still operating e-Citizen. And I remember one time the former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, talked about this.
Yeah.
And he said initially, yes, the president was very categorical that this had to come back to government hands, but then after a while, hiyo mambo ikaisha, ikanyamaziwa. The picture there on the front page today of the Daily Nation is about the protests yesterday. Katiagas Kalinuka jana, Thika Road. Nyoro, from Ruto insider to casualty of Gachagua fallout. Friends are turning into foes as the 2027 general election realignments take shape, with Kiharu MP's fate signaling the volatility of the political landscape. He lost his position as chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly. Appellate Court ends Kenya School of Law monopoly. Sasa kutakuwa na School of Law nyingine, sio lazima uende kule Karen. And Britain's murder suspect has 2 pending robbery with violence cases. Pale juu, angry youth heckle Raila in Kisii over handshake with president. Displeasure, some football fans jeer and stage a walkout on the ODM leader at the Gusii Stadium. Hey, Raila jaiona hivi. The story is on page 7, and I'm sure you've seen the videos online. I don't know why some people are denying that it happened, that, oh, that was a lie, these videos are doctored.
Evidence kwa kalatas.
Yes. Evidence kwa kalatas. On the back page, audit reveals millions lost in Nairobi stadia projects. You know, some of the stadia are expected to be ready in time for Chan, which was postponed from February to August, but we still don't have the stadia. So come August, you tutaambia nini watu?
Ama tutaenda Uganda.
Uganda wako tayari, Tanzania wako tayari. Sisi tu, na si ati hakuna pesa. Pesa ziko. Lakini sisi ni wa Kenya.
All right. The Star Cusco scam, how Kenyans lost 12.5 billion shillings Sacco cash. How regulators, chiefs failed to play by the rules. This story is on page 4 and 5 of the Star. And they say the explosive 208-page forensic audit of the Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives by Price Waterhouse Coopers can give the best box office fraud. The Dual Licensing Authority, SASRA, and the Commissioner for Cooperatives created confusion and enforcement gaps, enabling Cusco to operate with impunity. And this is Jeremy Mudachi, they are quoted. Other stories there, young farmer, 27-year-old, reaping big rewards from his hard work. So farmers, if you want to live large, enda farming. Maybe utafuga pale kuku, ujipate.
Kwetu nikifuga kuku tutakula yote.
All right, Ruto and Raila hit the ground running after deal. Just what you're talking about. In Tanzania and Uganda, we can't see such things yet.
Yes. It's actually political here in Tanzania. No political story on the front page. We are 2.5 years away from our elections, and there's so much politics.
Yeah. Mwingine ako Gusii Stadium, mwingine ako Eldoret, in Gishu. Interesting times.
Sema uza sera.
All right, this is the Star, fresh, independent, and different.
Yes, you can grab yourself a copy of the Star. It's only 60 shillings in Kenya. If you're in Tanzania or Uganda, it's 1,000 Tanzanian shillings, and Uganda's 2,000 shillings. Shilingi 2,000 will buy gazette. Ugandan money. Other people daily. Teacher Service Commission seeking 30 billion shillings for intern teachers. They've decided to go take a different tangent there. But they also make mention of what happened on Thika Road yesterday. Gen Z occupy City Church in protest against Ruto money. This is one of the stories that we'll be looking at with my panelists later on. Raila heckled in Kisii after dismissing Matiang'i dream. And you know, Ali dismissed akasema, aliulizwa swali direct by a journalist what he thinks about the prospects of Matiang'i becoming president. So, but you see, he cannot become president just through votes from Kisii.
Oh my God.
Watu hawajafurahia sana. Hawajafurahia.
Yeah. Mtu anaenda kwenu kukutusi kwa nyumba yenu.
Kwenu. Aliona moto. Youths ripped off in overseas job scam. Matters labor mobility. That story is on page 7. And in politics, defiant president makes 20 million shillings church donation. Yes. Mnapiga kelele huko anaenda anatoa 20 million. Piga kelele tena.
Na kama ni pesa
yake
ya mfuko.
Itakuwa blessed na 20 million. Unajua kuna mahali watu unapigwa na pesa. Unapigwa na pesa unaambiwa nyamaza.
Wow.
Matters business.
Business Daily State offers bank 6.4 billion shillings for KQ shares. Here, the Treasury will offer banks that own a stake in Kenya Airways a compensation of up to $50 million should the lenders sell their shares below the principal loan they extended to the troubled airline. Now, Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi disclosed the payout in a notice to a parliamentary committee, giving the breakdown of $25 million that the government guaranteed the consortium of local banks. All right. Saccos and accountants' body roped into dirty cash watch list. We see a photo there of Kimani Ichung'wah, National Assembly Majority Leader. Na kule juu naona ukiona money laundering unashangaa. Kenyans making deposit to savings and credit cooperative societies, that is SACCOs, are likely to come under scrutiny over their source of funds if a proposed law that seeks to tighten the country's leash on dirty money in the economy and strengthen its chances of getting off the grey list is passed. Also, Kimani Ichung'wah is trying to pass table this bill in Parliament.
Anti-money laundering.
Oh, amazing.
And combating terrorism finance laws amendment bill.
All right. On the ticker, Kenya makes early repayment of 77 billion Kenyan shilling syndicate loans, Treasury to link hustlers' pension scheme with SACCOs, and BAT to import nicotine pouches after selling factory machinery. Interesting. That's the Business Daily.
All right. Remember, starting 6:30 this morning, these three eminent Kenyans will be in studio, Ruto Rapkirwa, Dr. Mumbingaru, and Dr. Makali Mulu. Do stand by for that. Let's take a look at the cartoons as we come to the end of this newspaper review. We start off with, this must be the Daily Nation.
Yes, Daily Nation.
All right. So, kuna ngamia pale, lakini it's a caricature of the former Prime Minister. Has been portrayed here as a camel that has gone through different houses and broken them. Started off with Jogo, that was Kanu, went through PNU, went through Jubilee, and now is looking at the Wheelbarrow Party. Will the Wheelbarrow Party survive after this deal?
Haiwezi. Unaona nyuma venye kunakaa?
You should learn from history.
This is the Standard. In memory of Azimio, born March 2022, died March 2025, rest in peace. And a caricature there of Raila Odinga after he has buried this Azimio, and he's saying, quoted saying, it was business doing politics with you. Commentator pale anasema Sirkal.
Sirkal, is always after Sirkal. It was business doing politics with you, Azimio. Rest in peace. The People Daily has a caricature of the president and his newfound ally on top of a tree eating apples. Kuna watu wengine pale chini wanajaribu, wanashangaa tutafika aje tukule matunda hata sisi. Hapa chini I can see the former vice president Kalonzo Musyoka, kuna Jimmy Wanjigi, these are caricatures, Rigathi Gachagua, Eugene Wamalwa na Martha Karua. Watu wanashangaa, wanauliza what shall we do? Kule juu watu wanakula tu kweli kweli. Wakati wetu kula nyama. And finally on the Star.
Another handshake looming is the question being asked here. We see a caricature here of President William Ruto, that is Mudavadi.
This one. His newfound ally, Raila.
Ooh, Raila Odinga wakisalimia pale the church offertory. Tunaona hapa nyuma. Yes.
Hii ni handshake pia. Makanisa sasa tulie wakule pesa. Jenzi wapige kelele nje, kanisa inapigwa na 20 million. Kelele ingine 100 million. Kelele ingine hata land ya jeshi tutakupatia.
And you know, I saw somewhere that a Gen Z tweeted that they've just proved that the church wanaficha serikali.
All right. Of course, being a Monday today, at 8, we're going to be having Monday Blitz. A lot of sports coming from the weekend. Liverpool's exploits, what will happen to Kenya's Harambee Stars now they have a new coach. Shutterboy and Fred Arocho will be in studio. After that, at around 9, we'll be having a different conversation right here. Annulment
and divorce in marriage. Apparently, annulment is not divorce. Kama ulipelekewa mahari, you have to annul that ndio ukue free. Otherwise, ukienda kwa marriage ingine, you're still tied to the previous your previous partner. That's the conversation we'll be having today with Evans Ndong from 9 a.m. up until 10 a.m.
All right.
Meanwhile, interact with us on our social media platforms, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, on X at TV47 News KE. My handle is at Ann_Odida and the hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My handle is at Freddy Ndimule.
Stay with us.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on the Greenfix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on the Greenfix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why.
We are unafraid, unashamed, unapologetic about our faith in God as a nation. Na asante sana viongozi wa hapa kwa yale majukumu mnayatekeleza. Asante sana Wakristo kwa kutuombea, kwa kuombea taifa letu la Kenya, kwa kuniombea mimi kama kiongozi wa taifa hii na viongozi wale wengine wote ambao tunashirikiana pamoja na wao. Niko na imani kwamba neema ya Mungu inatosha kubadilisha taifa letu la Kenya iwe ni mahali ambapo sote tunajivunia kuwa wananchi wa taifa hii. Mimi nawasihi ya kwamba msitishwe na wale ambao wako kwa mitandao ati wanajaribu kutuambia ya kwamba hatuwezi kujenga kanisa la Mungu. Tutajenga kanisa la Mungu Kenya hii. Yes. Hatusemi, sijasema wapende wasipende, sijasema hivyo. Lakini tutajenga kanisa la Mungu Kenya hii.
Yes, we are unafraid, unapologetic about our faith in God. That's President William Ruto. That's what he declared yesterday. In a display of defiance against mounting public criticism, President William Ruto has once again handed over 20 million shillings to another church, this time to the African Inland Church AIC Fellowship Annex in Eldoret. The latest gesture makes it a whopping 140 million shillings in 1 week to churches. Yes. The Standard talks about it on the front page and they call it Pulpit arrogance. Do you agree with that headline? And they go as far as trying to say or to explain to Kenyans just what 140 million shillings can do, including building over 40 classrooms and paying capitation for over 6,000 students for a year and a free-day secondary school. That's the discussion this morning. Allow me to introduce my panelists. On my left, Dr. Mumbingaru, who has served as member of the East Africa Legislative Assembly and also served as mayor of Thika Town. Karibu sana.
Asante sana, good morning.
Making a comeback to the Morning Cafe team after a short break, about a month or so, is Kipruto Rapkirwa, who served as cabinet minister in the Kibaki 1 administration. It's good to have you in studio.
It's my pleasure.
Bwana Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, will be joining us also as we continue with this conversation. But let's start from there. Pulpit arrogance, would you call it that?
Good morning, friend.
Good morning.
First of all, I want to wish all women happy International Women's Day. We are still within time.
Belatedly, yeah.
And allow me to wish some of those women that are not celebrated. Because sometimes we give a lot of attention to the high profile. We have your media ladies here who put on the spotlights, the cameras on us, and others that you lift them up. We have another team of very able women who help us hold us at homes, and they are not celebrated. Our mothers and grandmothers, to them all, I want to say happy International Women's Day, and they are part of us. I'll come to your statement. Maybe the language is a bit too strong. Pulpit, arrogance. Like I said last time, faith is a field that I did do not like talking about, because we say others are, you know, your faith makes you almost turn, you hear about Al-Shabaab and all that kind of thing. So I'm careful when I'm dealing with that kind of a big statement about arrogance. But I also know that it has a tone of defiance. I will not close my eyes to that. But that defiance is the one that invites us to see the political angle into the whole affair. And then I feel qualified to comment about it, because he has invited me into the discussion. Sometimes, and quite a number of times, I think the head of state is insensitive to the way we see him do his things. And when I say insensitive, it's good to listen to even the Christian themselves when they are talking about the things that are being done. So probably, instead of calling it arrogance, I would have classified it as insensitive.
All right.
And maybe I'm not a very good politician, but like I said, it's a matter of faith. He has got the space, no doubt about it. Nobody else has got the space that he has. And probably because of that, he feels he can occupy the space. Umeze wembe, ukae, so what?
Isn't that arrogance?
It is not.
Because
it's not arrogance.
It comes 2 days after signing that MOU with Raila Odinga. Now the president feels much more emboldened to do and say anything. And he says he's unapologetic, unafraid, unashamed about his faith in God. So yes, Dr. Ngaro talks about insensitivity, defiance. The standard says arrogance. Which one would you go with?
Well, I'm not very good in defining headlines, but it is important for us to say what's the backdrop with which Kenyans are measuring the donation by the president or any other politician for that case. Is that the backdrop of an economy that is not doing so well, and many Kenyans don't seem to have money in their pockets as we talk. And therefore, when you give 20 million shillings, it is possibly not much for the president, but remember, if it was actually from his salary, that means he has given a salary perhaps for the 8 months. And that is big sacrifice for him. But we know some of this money may not be coming from very honest means. And therefore Kenyans, they frown upon it. And not because of the giving, but the fact that we doubt the sources from which this money is coming from. And therefore, it is like you are telling us, so what? You don't have, I have, and I can give. The other issue that I feel also more concerned is him equating himself with the holy, and those of us who are frowning upon his supposed lagis that is displaying, despite the fact that in the MOU that they signed with Raila the other day, they were condemning that opulence, the show of opulence, show of lagis, or any other display of huge amount of luxury. Is here again doing exactly the opposite of what they said. Some of the donations, the way we've said it before, can be given in a more subtle way, and in a way that it does not really show that, yes, I have, you don't have, so what? But as I've said, it is not useful for the president to want to put himself at the high pedestal that he equates himself with the holy, and the rest of us who disagree with him are satanic, because that is tantamount to saying the rest of us are satanic. And of course, he knows better than I do that the Bible is very clear. Don't condemn any person because you don't know on the day of reckoning. Leave that to God to make the judgment on who is holy and who is not holy.
Yeah.
So that is where I find it is what I call lack of political hygiene and good manners in our society.
Bwana Makali Mulu, welcome. Karibu sana to the panel.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, this, as the president was giving his latest donation of 20 million shilling to a church in Eldoret, there were protests on Thika Road. Young people came out to declare and show their displeasure at this show of opulence. This happened last year as well, when quite a number of senior state officers were going to churches and dishing out such kind of monies. What is the president telling Kenyan youth? That I'm not listening to you and I don't care what you're saying? Is that it?
Okay, thank you very much, Fred, for hosting us with my colleagues here. I think I want to pick it from where Honorable Kero has left it. You know, if we go biblical, if we want to be Christian as we are, and talk the language of the president, the Bible says God loves a cheerful giver. At the same time, it says, as you give, what the left hand holds, the left hand should not even know. So the problem we have is when he gives openly, and he gives also with a lot of arrogance.
So you do agree that it's arrogance?
Exactly, that's the thing, because you know the thing is, look at this economy. In addition to what we have said, the economy is not doing well. In addition to the fact that corruption is at its peak, what Kenyans are saying is, here we are, we can't even put food on the table. Majority of the Kenyan families are in that situation now. And then here is a president who gives 20 million, and from nowhere pronounces again he will give an additional 100 million. So what do you expect? Now, take where the youth are today. And we have discussed this matter so many times. The youth are serious unemployment challenges. And they're imagine somebody who has no job, he has several degrees in his pocket, and he imagines 20 million being given to a church, and here he is. And the person who is doing that is the president. So it's like he's saying, what can you do? It's your problem. The other thing is, look at where we are coming from. Anytime I read my Bible, and I attempt to read the Bible many times, when Jesus was living in this world, he did commission people to go out there and preach the gospel. I don't think preaching the gospel means constructing serious sanctuaries all over the place. And when you look at the average worshiper in that church, and you look at the bishop and the top leadership of that church, they live in totally different worlds in terms of their living. Mm-hmm. We are talking about cost of living. Look at the 10-point thing. I'm sure at some point we'll come to that. If you look at the 10-point agreement between the MOU between Honorable Ruto and Honorable Raila, about 8 of those points are talking about a common Kenyan in the streets, so that can we do 1, 2, 3 so that we improve their lives. Then At the top there, we live totally different from what we are saying. And I think that's what Kenyans are. That's why you saw the young people to walk to the church. They were telling the bishop, can you return this 20 million, even if it's not a lot of money, it could just do something small to help, to improve our lives. And basically from where I come from, that's what, the way I look at it, that we have a leadership which is not sensitive to what Kenyans are going through. And we've said it many times, it's not a secret. We have no personal issue with the president as a person, but we have issues with this governance style.
Okay.
We have serious issues with this governance style. And if we really want to help Kenya, because Kenyans elected him on the basis of a manifesto which he presented to Kenyans, saying, I'll do 1, 2, 3. 2 years are gone, almost 2.5, Fred. And as I listened to them sign this thing yesterday, the other day with the Honorable Raila, what worried me most, and I'm still very worried, is the fact that they were talking about the future. A government which has been in power for 2.5 years is still talking about, we will do this in the future. Things they promised Kenyans they will do 2.5 years ago. I think that's what worries me.
The cartoon on the Star talks about President William Ruto's style of politics and his relationship with the church. In the build-up to the 2022 elections, that was very clear that he used the church, or at least the platform of the church, as his campaign basis. After that, probably a year or two into his administration, there were complaints even from the church. Could he just be attempting to return closer to the church or to pull the church closer to him? Do you think that that is what is happening?
I think that is what is happening. I feel like we are giving too much attention to the president. Let us also address the church, because the church is not a church without the leadership of the church and the membership. Of the church. Suppose the president agrees with the leadership of the church that he's coming to that church, and then the membership decides we are not going. What would happen? It would send a message. It would say, we are in this, all of us are in it. I think because the leadership of the church has got a platform that allows them to, to preach from the pulpit or that sanctuary, and they are addressing membership that are a bit docile, then it is a good ground. It is a good ground. And then when you put the money of issue, offertory, tithe, thanksgiving, it becomes a rhythm combination. And the current regime is a beneficiary of that arrangement. And when the churches then noticed that there's something that the relationship has not been respected, does not probably agree with the principles that they did a soul searching. And we know what happened because it was out there. Church leadership started coming out and saying this is not what we had agreed. And we read of instances where the donations were sent back. So I think it's a way that's being a repeat performance.
Okay.
But I strongly feel that the membership of the church should be the first to show this displeasure, so that when it is announced, and it is not just about the president as a person, all of us in all the fields, including my brothers here, this madness has to stop somehow, but it will have to be forced from the membership of the church. Once you start this discussion, let the whole congregation walk out, and you are left alone. it will be a statement of fact that this is not the way.
Right.
We are not going to be used again.
There's something that we rarely talk about, and the EACC spoke about it sometime last year, that churches are also being used as vehicles for money laundering. And that is one thing we rarely talk about. If the president is doing this in churches, it will open up to politicians going back, making huge contributions that whose source is not known to churches. Do you agree that churches could be condoning some criminal activities?
Well, I don't want to go to the deep end, but suffice to say the following, that our Christians as they are today and the leadership of the country as it is today are likely to be at variance at some stage, where the leadership does believe they have lost some of the ground because of things other than what they promised. But as to whether the charge is used, then it will be dual collusion, in the sense that whoever is offering may be offering with the hope of sanitizing that money, and perhaps he will partake part of the money when it is already put in the channel as if it is offering from the church. Just like many other individuals who may have some Airbnbs or some apartments, that they are fully booked even when there is this low season for purposes of sanitizing the money. So you cannot put it past them, because the way I see it today, we have commercialized everything. Even issues come like what they say, panda mbegu, is a sign that the more you give, the more you are likely to be blessed, forgetting the basic tenets of teachings of Jesus, who appreciated a lady who gave the least, knowing that she was giving the only money that she had, when some other people had been flouting a lot of money. But he was able to point at the lady who gave the least amount, and he said, she has given more than the rest of you because she gave the only thing that she had. So I think we need to also to do reawakening of whether the faith and politics should be given parallel routes, so that when I submit myself that this Sunday I'm going to AIC church in a certain locality, I'm not just going to flaunt the money that I have. I'm just going because I feel my faith needs to be replenished, given the fact that we make so many mistakes in life and we sin almost every other time. But it is not for me to display what I can do or what I have compared to the rest of the people. So I feel we need to think about those fundamentals again. What is the role of the church? What is the role of the state? What is the role of politics in our nation? And how do we get an environment where there is existence in that kind of diversity?
Okay. Well, Makali Mulu, you do agree that there's sort of an unholy union between the state and the church, given or politicians and the church, because now the church appears to be providing the best platform for politicking and some of these other vices, and making huge pronouncements on what the president is doing right now. Do you agree that probably that could be a worrying issue going forward?
No, I think normally what would happen is, and we are lucky that you are politicians here. Normally what happens is politicians in their campaigns normally want to have an organized group for purposes of pushing on their agenda. It happens that our churches, by their nature, form that kind of platform. That anytime I go to a church and I happen to be friendly to the bishop, automatically the following of the bishop is likely to come to my side.
When you say friendly, it means you have to buy that.
To a large extent. And that's why you see anytime we go to church, politicians would always pretend to be holier than thou when they're in church. Basically because this is a very good platform as a result of you relating well with the bishop. But what has happened, and I think the problem is we tend to forget too soon. If you remember, about, is it late last year, when the bishops using the pulpit were saying the kind of leadership they are seeing in Kenya is not the kind of leadership they prayed for. You can remember that time, that what we are seeing is what we prayed for. And some is like we're regretting why they pleaded with God to provide this kind of leadership. Now here they are today, some seem to have forgotten that soon, that really things are not working well. And if I were a bishop today, what I would be doing is I would be listening to the voice of the people I lead. Because they say the voice of the people is, in most cases, is the voice of God. And I can tell you for sure, Fred, I don't think whether I've traveled around, attending some political rallies at times on my own, and in most places I've gone, forget about our region, which normally would be not be talking well of Ruto anyway. We don't seem to support him much. But even in other areas where his strongholds, I can tell you for sure, people are expressing very genuine concerns about this leadership. And that's why I'm saying the church might want really to have that at only union with the state, and in most cases is that state. And that's why you see the Catholic Church, through their bishops, have come out clearly. And they have stated some bare minimum requirements that as a church, we are not going to tolerate 1, 2, 3 for purposes of the people we lead and for purposes of the God we worship. But I think the so-called, where I come from, we call them, we don't give some of these churches very good names, and we call them funny names. I don't know, maybe Mweshima will help me. It's well said when said in my mother tongue, but not English. But it's like, we saw these droppings of some of these churches, the churches just drop. You find we have our old bishop, but he has only two churches outside his own church. Because in the mainstream churches, you find for you to become a bishop, it takes a lot of time. And that's why you see you must mature to a level that really you have been tested. And that is also biblical. If you look at the Bible, it says you should not hand over leadership to newly converted Christians, to new convertees, people who have just been converted a year or two, because they are likely to slide back to where they came from and mislead the congregation. So some of these things are very biblical, and that's why we really want to plead with the church, that the church is supposed to be one of the arms which provides checks and balances to the governing team. Because if you let them free, then you'll have no voice of reason. And bearing in mind that the so-called parliament, which is supposed to be another voice of reason, seems to have some challenges, and then the church will have that same challenges, the country is done.
Right. Pulpit arrogance, they call it, on the front page of the Standard. As millions of Kenyans battle high cost of living, President Ruto has splashed 140 million shillings on churches in just a week. Protests erupted in Nairobi yesterday and were met with a brutal police crackdown as furious Kenyans questioned whether these donations reflected generosity or a blatant display of political excesses amid economic turmoil. That's a big discussion going forward, the president's relationship with the church. And the Standard has done us justice. On the front page, they tell you what exactly, some of the things that 140 million shillings can do. All right. Let's move on now to the other conversation, of course, the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that was signed on Friday between President William Ruto and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. We have a story on the same inside Ruto-Raila deal. Let's watch it.
Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC, entered the annals of history yet again after President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga signed their cooperation pact to formalize their broad-based government. Outside, their supporters chanted and danced to the new union while waiting for the news that will usher the country into a new power arrangement and reshape the country's 2027 election politics.
Leo ni ile siku ya kumalizana na ukabila, kumalizana na chuki, kuondoa ubaguzi na kuunganisha Wakenya wote.
Hii tutatembea pamoja. Tumesema tunataka kuunganisha Wakenya wote wawe kama kitu kimoja, ili vijana waweze kupata ajira, gharama maisha irudi chini, bei ya unga irudi chini.
In the new deal signed before allies and former rivals, the leaders agreed to implement the Nadco report, which among other things proposes the position of the Prime Minister. Also agreed on is inclusivity in government, a move that signals a cabinet reshuffle soon to accommodate Odinga's allies.
This memorandum of understanding is not about
sharing positions, or winning elections. It is about the people and the interests of Kenya.
We make it clear that the memorandum we have signed today does not define the formation of a political coalition between ODM and UDA.
Respect to the Constitution and the rule of law, and an end to abductions witnessed after Gen Z protests, extrajudicial killings, and the right to free speech also forms part of the deal. The MOU also compels the government to allow Kenyans hold demonstrations and grant amnesty to arrested Kenyans.
I am a proud Kenyan to see what is happening here today, because as other speakers have said, courageous decisions are made by courageous people.
Also part of the deal was protecting devolution and increment of devote funds. The leaders also agreed to create opportunities for the youth by investing and starting economic stimulus programs. The MOU further wants public servants to stop their show of opulence and arrogance to Kenyans.
We have today told the people of Kenya that it is not about positions, that actually the issues that have been bedeviling this country are the most critical issues that should bring us together.
Baba here has seen it all. In fact, he has enough for his and all generations. His Excellency the President has sat on all positions. So in my thinking, this unity is for the young people of this country.
National debt was also in focus, with the leaders agreeing on an audit and accountability. The war on corruption through the empowerment of key independent offices, EACC, control of budget, and the Auditor General, stopping wastage in government, also forming part of the deal. This will be Odinga's fourth coalition agreement between him and the government of the day, after previous pacts between him and Presidents Daniel Moi, Mwai Kibaki, and Uhuru Kenyatta. Question is, will it hold or will it end like previous pacts? Apul Kamau, TV47 of the KICC in Nairobi.
Yes, that report by Apollo Kamau. The 10-point MOU, 1, full implementation of Nadco report. Number 2, inclusivity in budgetary allocations and public appointments. 3, protect and strengthen devolution. 4, economic investment in the youth. 5, leadership, integrity, and end of opulence. Underline that one. Right to peaceful assembly, compensation of all pending claims of rights victims. That's 6, audit of national debt and how it was used. 8, fight corruption. 9, stopping wastage of public resources. And 10, protect sovereignty of the people, stop abductions, respect constitutionalism and the rule of law, and respect press freedom. Beyond just being talking points, because we've heard all this before during campaigns, there's nothing new here. Do you find anything that can be a selling point for this? In the Grand Coalition Agreement, the main agenda was to bring peace between the warring parties then. What is the selling point for this MOU, Dr. Ngaro?
Fred, allow me to agree with you. There's nothing new. And I think the document said what the ears wanted to hear. The challenge is the implementation. But I still want to thank the two principals for having the wisdom and the courage against all odds, from either sides, to come in front of us and say, this is what we want to do. Because something must be done between now and then. The then, you don't have an answer, but many people are talking about 2027. So what happens to the country between now and then? Something has to be going on. And I think the wisdom and the courage of the leaders to give us a document, this is what we want to do, is a plus. the focus on addressing the 10 points is the challenge.
All right.
A big challenge, because we started bombarding the document with doubts and a lot of handshake, nusu mkate, and that kind of thing, to tell us that it's a song. We know it, we know the script, and we know how it ends. My question is, will they hold? Will they implement? Because if they do that, whether they are going home or not, they will have saved the country of other stalemates that would happen. For me, from where I sit, the implementation of the Nadco report, it was placed in Parliament. I know it had issues, but would we have the courage to address those issues? And this is where the problem is. I know that even from the two majority political parties, inside there, they are divided down the middle. Let's not try to hide that all is well, all is well. So this feeling of let's wait and see. And the reason why I believe in it is because if you look at the wisdom of my party leader, especially after the Gen Z the revolution, though he donated some of our members into the current government, we always lose the fact that inside there, the country almost came slowly back to normal, and we are still having a country. And my question goes back to, suppose this continued, where would we be as a country? So my prayer is, I hope the two gentlemen know that number one, there are no Kenyans to take for a ride this time around. Number two, this feeling that my party leader has betrayed his Azimio friends and that kind of thing, I know and I understand that the MOU was between two political parties. It was not about two coalitions.
Two parties.
Two parties.
UDA and ODM.
Yeah.
But Bonakirwa, should we even be focusing on this 8-page document here? It would appear this is just window dressing, that the points we are reading here, these are talking points that we've had in our political sphere for years. Implement Nadco report in full. Are we focusing on the wrong thing? The deal could be something totally different. This is just what is put forth for Kenyans to see.
Yeah, my worry, Fred, is that we should go to the fundamental philosophy of politics in Kenya. Politics, and when we go for elections, is meant to identify those who have won and those who have not won at this particular time. Practically in every constituency, there are two people or more who run, and when one wins, regardless of the margin, he becomes a member of parliament for that constituency for the remaining period of 5 years. And those who do not make it, they wait for another day. But what we've done since 1992, because I remember I was a member of parliament then, and when Raila came in, it never lasted 5 years in a truly opposition benches. What he did upon the death of his own father, who was the leader of Fort Kenya, he had a tussle with the late Wamalwa Kijana. And when he lost in Thika, or there was an intervening period where the late Archbishop Manasseh Kuria was still looking for a way of trying to reconcile the two factions. He himself went to NDP, and there was a by-election where KANU presented a candidate. But that candidate of KANU in the midstream was frustrated by the system itself because they wanted Raila to win. And in all other elections, Raila has never lasted for 5 years in any formation, including the party that he assisted win in 2002. By 2005, he had left us, and he went orange, the orange that he still carries up to today. And of course, an orange was carried by the Honorable KALONZO. And in all other subsequent elections, there is no election that he has stayed for 5 years, except 2013, 2017, when he stayed the full hog in the opposition to have a go at the presidency again. This therefore means that we are dealing with what I call Raila phenomenon, where politics is defined by convenience of an individual who does not believe that elections ought to define the position of that particular formation. And therefore, the watermelon name they had given to the Honorable KALONZO has now come true of Raila himself. He's a watermelon, and Kenyans have been very kind to him, to be forgiving him for all these mistakes he makes. And even that paper that they signed the document, they were just regurgitating the information that is already in the public domain. And some of them are not practical to be achieved between now and the next election. For example, to change some of the fundamentals of the Constitution will mean you have to go for a referendum. I don't see ourselves having time for a referendum, having time for election within the next 2 years. Either you go for referendum and you forget elections for some time, but because that is defined by the Constitution, we'll have to go for elections, and some of the issues will be resolved beyond the next election. And the next election will produce different results. It may produce the same individuals being in one government, or different individuals being in government. And therefore, this is just a political gimmick. Let us not call it anything else. They are just planning to run together. And I suspect either they will merge the two parties, or William Ruto will dissolve UDA and go to ODM. After all, he started this journey in ODM as one of the Pentagon members.
And that could be the real deal, not what you're seeing here.
Not what we are seeing or what we are being told.
Yes.
The real deal is they want to still salvage themselves politically by telling Kenyans we still have hope in this country, when they don't have hope in the country.
But Amakali Mulu, do you agree that probably looking at this MOU, it looks like a very rushed document, not much thought put to it, that the real deal is something else, not the 10 points that we're seeing? Because if you look at the 10 points, point number 5, they talk about the end of opulence. Point number 6, they talk about a right to peaceful assembly. Within 2 days, those had already been defied by the president himself. The protests in Thika, the crackdown by police was...
Yeah, true.
Yes. So is this really the intention, the 10 points?
Maybe before I come to the 10 points, let me just write on what Honorable Kiro has said, and I want to thank him for what the history. You know, we say history is beautiful because it informs the current and the future. And listening to him, what he's just telling Kenyans and the viewers is that they should now know who is the real watermelon. It has been a story of the thief pointing to the other person, saying that's the thief is there, while actually the thief is the person pointing the other person. Let me leave it at that. But let's come to the 10-point issue, Fred. You know, Fred, when you look at those issues, the 10 of them, and why I'm saying really we need to be worried as Kenyans. You know where I come from, we used to say in the old days, there was a pot which would normally be used to cook for the fools and people who don't understand. That if you want to make food for people who don't understand and fools, you will use that you use that pot. When you want to cook for intelligent people, you use a different pot. So when things get serious, we say that these days now, from where I come from, we always tell people, the port which used to go for the fools and people don't understand, got broken a long time ago. It's gone. So the only port remaining now is for people who are intelligent. And I can tell you, Kenyans are intelligent. If you look at the 10 points, the only point which I could say is something might be new to Kenyans is point number 1.
The Nadco.
The Nadco report. The rest are either in the Constitution. If you look at chapter 6 of the Constitution, issues of integrity are well captured there, and the leadership. If you look at our Constitution, it talks about issues of being inclusive. They are already in the Constitution. If you look at the Constitution, issues of youth are well addressed, that no Kenya should be marginalized on a number of things. Now, the few things which are not captured in the Constitution are in respective manifestos of these parties. So that if you look at the manifesto, the things were actually captured even before the government been voted in. So the only thing which is new there is the Nadco report. And why it is number 1 and not number 2 is because of the following reasons. Number 1, let's appreciate the fact that when Raila joins the government, as he has done in the past, we experience some national peace. That there is now, Kenyans can relax and do their things because Raila is not in the opposition. Now, the big question is this peace for Kenyans to do their business and other things? Or is it a peace for the leaders to do things which they could not do when they are in different camps? I hope, Fred, that the peace we are talking about is not peace to provide conducive environment for rooting the economy as we approach the 2027. That's my hope. And the Nadco report, I was looking at some comments yesterday from colleagues, the members of parliament. What they are saying is, now that we have come together and we have a very small group which is not supporting the so-called collaboration of, is it a collaboration what? It's a MOU, but there was political collaboration deal. That's what they're calling it. That now that we have majority of the members of parliament on one side, we can pass the Nadco report, which proposes creation of a prime minister position, creation of leader of opposition, entrenching NGCDF in the constitution, the Senate fund in the constitution. These are the issues. Now, while the other two, the last two, could be done with the parliament, the issue of the prime minister and the issue of the leader of opposition, we might not want it. We can force it through Kenyans. They require referendum. I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you they require referendum. And that's why I'm agreeing with Honorable Kiro when he says we don't have enough time for referendum to be processed in the country now and still have elections. So we could have a situation whereby with this agreement, we can say, can we push election by another 2 years so that we process the referendum? And you know what Kenyans will be saying on that. So really, for me, can we, let's say, I really love the idea of them us coming together so that we're able to do our business. But my prayer again, let's not be using this peace to harass Kenyans.
Yes. It's the genuineness of the intention that many people are wondering, because if at all we are not to rely on these 10 points that they've put here, then it means the intention is different. Probably matters to do with 2027 politics. Do you agree that we are missing that, and probably there's room for the president and the former prime minister now that they've already started to really sell this to Kenyans, but what will their selling point be?
Fred, I want to say I am in that category that really will not understand. And until I see the steps, the bold steps to make a difference, then I will be convinced. I'll go back to where I started, that the devil is in the action itself. About the two of them being partners, they have been. I know it because I have been in the party. And therefore, it's nothing new for them to come back and start working together. It happened between him and the former President Uhuru. They were not friends, they became friends, now they are, it's interests. But what worries me as a Kenyan is that we have not had the courage, all of us, to scream out the problems of this country. When I stand as a politician, I will talk about my people, people from the mountain, people from Rift Valley, the Carigin, and the watermelon is there, and there are people there. And this is something that gets across all of us, that we have not had leaders who come out. They will say, oh, we want unity in the country, we want equality, and we want, but when they go back to their backgrounds, it is about my people, about my clan, about that worries me. And I hope that the two of them and the team that is going to work around them can address that. Mm-hmm. The other thing, Fred, that we do not have the courage to talk about, we are all talking about 2027, who will be a partner to who and who will be a running mate and whatever else. But very few of them, including the two good gentlemen, are not able to say this is what ails this country. My colleagues are talking about winning in constituencies and in governorship, but I remember from maybe way beyond 2002, the wins have been controversial at presidential level. And we all know, let's not hide our faces under the sand and say they have not been fair. And the dirt in the elections is the one that makes people run back to their cocoons. And we thought devolution was going to bring some good thing about addressing why people must fight for that position number one. But it looks like we are dragging, we are getting back. Every other person, even before them, talked about the youth. It's been there. So I wish they could have a team, both of them, behind the scenes, not people that are known, who can tell them as it is. But I know, because I work for my boss, most of them are uncomfortable with people who can tell it as it is. As it is. And that needs a person who is not going to seek for votes. Because if you are thinking about how you'll get votes in the next elections, you will not be truthful.
All right.
You will not be truthful, even to your boss or even to your party, because you might miss the nomination certificate. And so the document is good, but I join my colleagues by saying, let's address that is not in the document, but it is known to us.
All right.
That's where the weight is. Yeah.
A lot is not said. The document is 8 pages long, but I think my panelists agree probably that's not where the focus should be. Yeah, there's a lot that has been left unsaid. So we will focus on them, as Dr. Ngaru said, once they start implementing the Nadco, then we can talk about the Nadco report. For now, we'll probably be wasting our time discussing the details there.
Yeah, sure.
But after following the signing of that MOU on Friday, there's been a lot of reactions from across the board. Yesterday in Kisii, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga was heckled. Angry youth heckled Raila in Kisii of a handshake with president. It's there on the front page of the Daily Nation. The story is on page 7. It's also in others. We have a story of a reaction by Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka saying that Raila has betrayed Kenyans. It's also time for us to take a break, I think. Probably let's take a break. Then when we come back, we continue this conversation.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on the Greenfix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on the Greenfix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, one.
A hand of applause.
The Friday's political event at the KICC Jamboree seemingly caught Raila Odinga's two-time running mate KALONZO Musyoka unawares. At the same time, Odinga was sharing a stage with his longtime political rival, President William Ruto. KALONZO was also speaking at Uhuru Park, criticized the move as a betrayal of Kenyans.
If, as they sign at KICC, they do not come up with a formula to say we are going to compensate for the lives of the young Kenyans who were killed during constitutionally valid, constitutionally enabled demonstrations in 2024 and in 2023, because we lost close to 100 young Kenyans. If there is no formula out of KICC today showing Kenyans how they are going to compensate the families and the loss of lives because of police brutality, then, as my brother said, nothing will come out of KICC other than betrayal of the Kenyan conscience.
Reacting to the unveiling of the Memorandum of Understanding MOU between Raila and Ruto, KALONZO reaffirmed that the opposition coalition remains steadfast in defending the interest of the people.
What we want is comfort for all Kenyans. Now we have said, I once was Minister for Education, And we actually put in place Higher Education Loans Board. And we are saying that because the courts in their wisdom have found the new funding model to be unconstitutional.
Kalonzo warned that the Raila-Ruto's alliance will still face rejection from Kenyans due to the policies of the Kenya Kwanza administration.
I wanted to know andani bado hako kwa sha na hata huko tutamtimua mbio.
Former Defense CS Eugene Wamalwa also weighed in, cautioning that Raila would be judged harshly for abandoning his fight for Kenyans in favor of a pact with President Ruto.
We have chosen deliberately and with clear minds where we stand from today. Those who have left the opposition to join Zakayo's government, history is a harsh judge, and may history judge them.
However, in a swift rebuttal, Busia Senator Okiya Omtatah strongly opposed the report's implementation, insisting that Raila-Ruto's pact should be dismissed in its entirety.
Mr. Raila Odinga and Mr. William Ruto have declared war on the future of this country. They want to take us back to the past. We say we are not going back to the past. We are going forward, and we are ready to take them on. Omundu humundu, one-on-one.
Lennox Sengre, TV47, Nairobi.
Yes, indeed. The reactions have been many and varied, but a lot of people seemingly unsettled, left unsettled by the signing of that MOU last Friday, from politicians to the youth in Kisii who were quick to express their displeasure, some football fans jeering and even staging a walkout on the ODM leader Raila Odinga at the Gusii Stadium yesterday. Let's focus on that, the reactions to this, because definitely there are people who are even within the same two big parties. Yeah. There are people who have been left totally uncomfortable. Yeah. The SG of the ODM party, you could see even on his face, even when announcing this, that he was not really convinced it's the right way to go. There could be other casualties as well. The position of Prime Cabinet Secretary, even the position of Deputy President. From where you sit, Bwana Kirwa, do you think the casualties will be many for this MOU?
Well, of course, before the accident, you do not know how many casualties will arise, because this is actually a political accident. A political accident that arises out of political bad manners that we have allowed to pervade our atmosphere since the advent of second liberation, or second multipartyism. I say so because we seemed to have lived in one party regime far too long, that we forgot that there are two results that come out: those who win and those who don't win. And those who don't win does not mean that they are useless. They still got a chance to play a role in building the nation. And that is where I feel there is going to be a problem. I know even some of the individuals in UDA, not necessarily the ones who are associated with the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. There are many other people who are genuinely supporting the president who are a bit worried whether this kind of prickmanship is going to last for the period between now and 2027. Or is it going to be like the handshake that Raila has had before, even with President Uhuru Kenyatta, only to remain with President Uhuru Kenyatta and go back as the main candidate for the opposition? So some people are worried. What will happen if he was to ditch this kind of arrangement on the eve of the next election? The second issue is that many of us are worried fundamentally that when shall we stop this kind of shortchanging each other in a way that when we are with somebody, you always suspect that this guy can leave me or this lady can leave me anytime. This suspicion has happened here in Kenya because we do not believe in systems. If we believed in systems, the president does not need the support of Raila to implement his manifesto. Mm-hmm. The president does not need the support of Raila Odinga to do the things he promised to Kenyans. The president does not need Raila Odinga or any other man or woman from the opposition to do what he knows is right for the people of this country, including implementing certain sections of the Constitution. which he himself sworn to protect that constitution. Does he need Raila to remind him about rampant corruption? Does he need Raila to remind him about poverty is ravaging the entire country? Does he need Raila to be told the economy is not doing as well as you do? Those statistics you churn out, and I can say this with a lot of confidence, even the so-called sufficient sugar production. We know even at the best of times, sugar production in Kenya, we used to import certain percentage. But now we are pretending that sugar production, we have self-sufficient, when almost half of the factories are closed. Where are they milling this sugar? Where are they producing this sugar from? It is just sugar through Kismayu. They bring into the country, they reback it under Mumias and under any other factory that is in existence or at almost at ICU. But finally, Fred, I think it is important as Kenyans, as we prepare for the next election, and let's not pretend this thing is about the next election. We allow institutions to operate after elections. Whether those in the government win again or those in the opposition win, we want to allow institutions to work. If it is control our budget, if it is control an auditor general, if it has anti-corruption, let us not be using these institutions to make ourselves politically correct. Let us allow these institutions to operate. Let us accept that Kenyans that have been given those positions know better than I can pretend to know. We may have been in the same class with somebody, but if he's been given a job and he's been doing it for the last 2 years, I cannot pretend I know. Even if I went back to the same ministry I served for 5 years, I will have to relearn some of the things going on in those ministries. I'm not a magician. I'm not above normal. And therefore, if we trust institutions to operate, we will not be getting into this kind of quagmire. Otherwise, even if Raila was to win, and we don't allow institutions to operate, this country is likely to find itself in the same political confusion.
Okay. If we look at the possible winners or losers, those who stand to gain, those who stand to lose in as far as this MOU is concerned, who do you think will be the biggest victim of this MOU?
Victim?
Or casualty for that matter?
Quite a tough question.
Because some people have been talking about the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary.
But from where I sit, for me, it's just common Kenya. Anybody who Kenya knows is common. The normal Mama Wanjiku, Mama Kasioka, Mama Wafula, those are the people to suffer. Because basically, if you look at all this MOU, they are generally targeting at the leadership gaining. It's the leaders who are going to gain. And you can analyze it. After signing, look at who has gained. Some people have been able to, even before signing, with just the agreement, FAB agreement, some people have joined the government as ministers. Those are not the common mwananchi. Some people are now going to chair committees which should have chaired by the majority side of the house. Those are not common mwananchi. Very soon you see people joining the position of principal secretaries, more people joining from the ODM side. That is not common mwananchi. Very soon you will see some cabinet reshuffling where some new faces will come in. And the anticipation is that anybody who associated with the former deputy president is likely to find their way out and come in, people who are friendly to ODM. So the other group which will be more likely will suffer a bit is people who are still saying we remain the minority, where I belong. Because we've seen a bit of maneuvering where positions are being given out, not on the basis of merit, but on the basis of your loyalty to the powers that in courts. But generally, from where I sit, Kenya will suffer most. Kenyans who are out there. I've just been looking at a small article here, matters public debt. Look at the way we are borrowing money. Obvious, it's going to make it very difficult for common mwananchi to survive in this country. And that's what I'm saying for the remaining 2 years and a half. My prayer is that we don't really go worsening the situation for the common mwananchi.
Okay, but even just focusing on the leaders, and I'll stay with you, Bwana Makalimulu, we saw how awkward the deputy president was trying to find his position when they lined up there to take a photo, and he didn't know exactly where to stand.
Yes.
We've seen it before, that issues of protocol, when even under the Grand Coalition agreement, that the position of vice president then vis-a-vis the prime minister and the president, who takes what position. Do you see that playing out again this time around?
This is just as clear as day and night, because what my friend Professor Gidigi should just know without being told. When Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga comes in, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya must take the third slot, not the second slot. And I said here last week but one, with Raila coming in now, and with the 2027 elections approaching, this time is not 50-50 sharing. It is 25-75 sharing. With Honorable Raila 75%, with Honorable Ruto 25%. The only thing Ruto can now not hand over, the only thing President Ruto cannot hand over to Honorable Raila Odinga is the president's only, the one position. The rest can go. My friend Honorable Watangwa should be worried. The speakership can go anytime. Deputy President should be worried. Even Nadco does not go through, you could see changes in that office. These are possibilities. And I'm telling you, this time is not 50-50.
It did not escape our attention that both the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the Speaker of the National Assembly were absent during the signing. These are senior ranking members of the Kenya Kwanza arrangement. But they may have been away on official duty, yes, but there are murmurs that there could be some discomfort given the kind of space that Raila Odinga and his ODM will now occupy in that arrangement. Do you agree that there could be some serious victims at that high level of leadership?
But it was a working document between two political parties. As far as I know, they belong to different political parties. And therefore their presence probably was not very needed. Musalia
Mudavadi belongs to UDA now.
Yeah, it's okay, but at what level? Let's not, the devil is in the details. I get the humor from Mheshimiwa that it's a 25 and 75 percentage arrangement. And that is what makes politics interesting. And from where I sit, of course, I respectfully and with a lot of humor say, it's still going back to the original owner, so it's not a big deal. But I think I forced myself to get out of that thought. And for me, the priority is how do we use this space, the space that has been created by the two of them, to right the wrongs, because they are there for every one of us to see. And I pray that we have the courage, even to tell them, you know, when we are near them, that you know what the ground is saying, you need to address this and the other. But politics in this country has gone to another level. We are all experts. We are all experts. And that makes it a bit difficult for them. We point a finger at them, and then we are quiet participants of the confusion from behind. I always take time when the controversy is as thick as it is now, to have, even if it is a 10-15 minutes meeting with my boss, and I tell him as it is, and I say, thank you for hearing me. What you do with that, the information that I have given you and have corrected for you, is up to you. Right. But when most of us have that opportunity, we don't tell them because we are waiting for the next appointment. That's the other problem. And therefore we are all responsible for the confusion in which we are. If I had, and if I will ever have an opportunity to sit with the president, I will tell him what I tell you from here, that it's not good outside there. Right. And the way you are talking to Kenyans, they don't like it. Not just the members of your party. I will be...
Is this, will use a headline on the Standard.
I will not use that.
Arrogance.
I will not use that one. I will not use that. I will tell him he's insensitive.
Insensitive?
Yes, I will not use that one.
You won't use arrogance, okay.
No, I won't use that one.
As we come to the close, we have about 7-8 minutes to go, so we'll divide it equally as you make your final comment. There's an issue of the youth, and probably they feel betrayed the most. We could see the reactions in Kisii, what the Wiper Party leader said, that after the deaths of so many young Kenyans in the protest last year, this is the last thing they expected. That demographic appears to have been left out of this. Yet we saw so many youth at the KICC during the signing of this deal. How do you see that playing going forward, as you make your final comment?
Yeah. You know, Fred, there is something that those of us who are in our 60s or approaching 70 seem to forget that we are only 2% of the population of Kenya. And therefore, the bulk of the voters of this country are people under 50, between, of course, 18 and 50. And if all of them are to take votes, we'll actually be in the minority. And we are still in the minority. And therefore, we seem to have our own lenses, that we look at our society through the lenses of the old. And even some of the people who entered politics at a very early age, such as the president, and even Raila himself, seem to think that the youth of today do not have the requisite capacity to be in leadership. I just want to remind them, because history informs us. Before President Nyerere retired from politics, he deliberately made sure that his cabinet, 50% were under 40, including the Prime Minister then, the late Edward Sokoine. Because he understood that the bulk of the work of the nation is done by energetic, informed, and facilitated young people. But here in Kenya, we seem to think that we can do better because we have experience and we have a lot of knowledge about society. A society that we are alien to it, many of us. I want also to remind them that even the cabinet of President Kenyatta was above 70 when he took over the reins of power. And he passed on when he was in the mid-80s. But his cabinet still remains the youngest cabinet ever, because he had people at the age of 29, like the late Zachary Onyonga, people like Daniel Mutinda Musyoka. At the age of 32, he was already a cabinet minister, and so forth and so forth. It is not about tokenism to talk about youth. We should actually deliberately say, if I was to have a voice, should we form the government, those of us in the opposition, we say 50% must be under 40. And if we are lucky to be in our 60s like myself, and I'm in the cabinet, I would say I'm serving for the last time, so that I have a deliberate program that at the end of the 5 years, I have no business pretending that I know things better than the people who have gone to school, people who know what is happening in society, people who understand the pulse of the nation. But finally, on the issue of the absence of Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula, there is an old saying that if you are not part of the table, at the table, then you are part of the menu. So I suspect they could easily be part of the menu.
All right. What will you go next? On this issue of the Gen Zs, they were out in the streets yesterday. They say they have been betrayed, and they showed it to Raila Odinga. I don't think Raila Odinga has experienced anything like this in any part of Nyanza before.
No, he has not. And what I would say is, the youth of this country should know about three things. The first one is the fact that even though on paper their issues are very well articulated, practically nobody is implementing them. The second point is they are on their own. And it's for them to come out and create their own space. They must create their space. If they don't do it, nobody will do it for them. The third point is they are the majority in this country. If you do the population analysis, they are the majority. Being the majority and democrats tied to voting, which involves majority, they can take any position they want if they organize themselves well. So if they craft their own agenda and come out in big numbers, they can send everybody home, including the two guys who have signed the MOU within a minute. And as I conclude, I think Kenyans out there have seen what has happened. I think it's for the first time I saw the young people defying Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. He has been their hero many, many years because he has been fighting for things which touch the common mwananchi. Yesterday you saw what happened. Almost the whole stadium, people are walking out. And from those of us, and we are all politicians, I don't think anybody would claim that was a paid crowd to walk out. The numbers were so huge that nobody can pay them. So it was a demonstration of defiance that what you are doing for us as Kenyans, we are not happy with it. And I'm telling you, don't be surprised to see many of this happening in the next 2 weeks, because Kenyans are very, very unhappy. So the thing is, our young people, as we have said many times, it's time you stand up for your rights. It's time you work hard for your space in this republic. If you don't do it, with all your education, and they're very well educated, they continue just lamenting. And I don't really think this is the time to lament. This is time for action. But even as leaders, they said, we are the minority, some of us, we are the minority. And if we don't appreciate the fact that we are the minority, the majority will overrun us.
Okay. Thank you. Raila Odinga should definitely be worried about what happened in Kisii yesterday. Do you see him turning to the youth now going forward?
Fred, I can see my friend here enjoying me. I am not defending him, but I know he has gone through that. And I respect him because people like Ababu Namwamba was named a cabinet minister in Kibaki government, and he was from our party. We've got people like Paul Otuoma, Ochilo Ayako. That time they were in their 30s, and they were named cabinet ministers through Raila Odinga. So there's nothing new. It is true that youth are the majority now. But I've always felt that the youth are missing a bit of how to stay in power. And that's a secret that probably people like the two gentlemen have learned over time. And that's why they are able to stay relevant and with the following up to now. I know there are people like Sifuna, our SG, who also is in that youth group that they have learned something from our party leader. The youth are doing a good thing, but I don't think political parties have had time like we had, because I will say it without any fear of contradiction, that some of us went through the process of staying power in it. Currently, you look at the formation of the youth leagues in all political parties, and you will find that people who are very, very vocal during the Gen Z revolution are now anchored into a political party. They have not asked themselves why. It's not for me to discuss it here, but I know one of them is now a full member of our party. The other is a full member of another party. I have no, it's their choice. But that is an area where the youth should sit on their own and with people who can help them understand about the staying power in politics. And for lack of allowing themselves to learn about that aspect, we have had people who get into those executive positions. Within 1 year, they've lost their agenda.
Okay.
And that is where the problem is.
Asante sana. What happens to the youth going forward, especially following the signing of the MOU between William Ruto and Raila Odinga? Will they find space in the newfound arrangement? Thank you so much, Dr. Mumbi Ngaru, who has served as MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, and also as a mayor of Thika Town. Kipruto Rapkirwa, who served as cabinet minister in the Kibaki One administration, and Makali Mulu, MP, Kitui Central, our panelists this morning on State of the Nation, as we took a look at the big headlines. One that many people are a bit uncomfortable with, Pulpit arrogance. That's the front page of the Standard as they continue with two-word headlines. I think these are my favorite. They've been doing some good work at the Standard with those two-word headlines. Monday Blitz coming up after the break. A lot of sports discussed by Fred Arocho and Shatterboy. Do stand by for that and a lot more later on. My name is Fred Indemuli. Have a lovely day.